Matt, so the first game we're going to talk about is a game that I tried to download this morning. It's Star Wars Battlefront 2's beta. I got up early today because I knew we were going to talk about it on the show. And so get up at 6 a.m., start downloading it. It downloads really fast, by the way. And one of the things you guys probably remember from the stream was I didn't think it was going to be a problem downloading games to play. Because I had all the consoles here. I figured while I play one, the other one will download. I have never seen download speed so slow in my life.
That is, I mean, I think I said on that stream, like, because you were still downloading the Fortnite Battle Royale thing, and I had been over at our friend Benson's right before I came over. We'd been watching the stream, and while we were watching you do that, or talk about that, he was like, "Oh, what's that?" I'm like, "Yeah, just download." So he went to download. It was taking like 3 hours on his thing too, at his home internet. For some reason, Battle Royale was taking forever. And maybe now that we know like over 7 million people are playing Fortnite, maybe it was just too many people trying to access that data.
It could be. The other thing too is when I came home the next day, out of curiosity, I started to try to download stuff, and it was at that same speed. So I don't know what was going on with both Xbox Live and PSN.
I downloaded the Battlefront beta yesterday. Like during early in the morning or during the day, and like it's like no problem.
Yeah,
like,
this morning I downloaded it, and I think it was 20 minutes, and it's like 15 gigs. So I don't know what the deal is there, folks. It did put a kind of a kink in the whole stream, though, kind of waiting for things to download to play. But overall, I think the stream went well. But anyway, let's talk about Battlefront. So I download it. Downloads really fast. I'm ready to go. I go to launch my first match. I never got to play a match, man.
Yeah.
I sat there. It would say, need 15 more players, need 8 more players, need 19 more players, need 12 more players, and it just would never, ever launch for me. You had a much better experience.
Yeah, I played it a fair amount yesterday afternoon and evening. I didn't try it today. Maybe just during a work day. Maybe it's
today it's open to everybody.
Yeah, but
yesterday it was just for pre-orders.
People aren't home from work yet, so maybe it's just sparse.
By the way, did you see yesterday that people had figured out a way to trick EA's Star Wars Battlefront website to give them early beta codes?
Oh, yeah? Huh.
They found, apparently a bot was running EA's website, and what people did was they went to the website, put in a ticket saying that the code that they got didn't work, and the website just automatically sent them one. Yeah. They ended up closing the loophole by the end of the day because we saw the story during curation. And we always check to make sure we're not posting stuff that isn't relevant anymore. And by the time we went to add that story to the site, they had closed it down. But it had worked for like almost 24 hours. So
don't try to put one over on the gamers. They'll find the strategy.
They will find a way for sure. So you got to play it. I haven't.
Yeah.
What do you think, Matt?
It's pretty good. It's not as floaty as the last one was, which is a little weird because floaty is sort of a Battlefront trademark.
It is, yeah.
It feels a little more like Call of Duty now, I would say. It still seems to have that thing where aiming down the sight doesn't actually make you any more accurate.
Oh, really?
Like the first game.
Yeah.
It's just to get a better view of what you're looking at. I'm hot and cold on it because it's like a beta, so you only get one map per mode.
Man, the beta's pretty big.
There's a lot of stuff to do. There's a lot of
stuff in there, yeah.
So you've got Galactic Assault, which is sort of I guess it's Walker Assault, but like adapted. So in this particular, it's the same the same map they showed at E3, the Theed Palace on Naboo. And the way it works is the Trade Federation is moving an MTT, which is a troop transport, giant like tank-like thing down the main drag where the parade happens at the end of episode 1.
Yeah.
And it's trying to get to the palace and take over the palace. So the beginning is you as the clone trooper, because I've only played the clone trooper. I played like 5 or 6 of these matches. I never got to be the droids. But so you're basically just trying to stop this thing with these ion blasters you can pick up. And once it gets there, it shifts into the palace, and you have to play like a zone defense. And then if you lose the two points in the zone defense, you have to defend the throne room. And if you lose the throne room, you win, because I have not lost any matches.
What?
Like I've had matches where we lost. Like they took over the throne room, our tickets were all gone, or like other things. Yeah. And every single time, I still get the victory cutscene. Like I think there's something wrong with the beta.
You sure you didn't have the millennial mode turned on?
No, I could have been. My main problem with that problem with that mode so far is I have a lot of trouble seeing the damn robots, the droids, because they're the same color as the Theed.
They're also very skinny.
They are very skinny, but the problem is they're the same tan as most of the walls and ground
interesting.
as the city, as the feed city. And so early on, I was having tons of getting shot by things I couldn't even see because they looked just the same color as the wall.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're playing against troopers, they're bright white targets. So a similar thing happened in Endor in the last game, where the rebels were nice and camouflaged, and the stormtroopers were just running around bright white in the green forest. Looks amazing. I mean, beautiful.
It is one
visuals.
of those beautiful games I've ever seen.
And just especially on PlayStation, there's some stuff going on that I'm like, man, I'm impressed they got that running. Especially reflection wise, and some of the reflections on the ground and stuff.
Because what you see a lot of times with multiplayer is they dial the visuals back,
right?
Sometimes rather significantly. I think we saw that with the Call of Duty World War II. At least I hope so. The Call of Duty World War II beta. Because if that's what the campaign visuals look like, it's got problems.
No. Well, also they do that in betas where they just don't want you to have to download a ton of extra textures. But at 13 gigs, this seems to be given the full Monty, so to speak. So I played that, and I played the mode where I can't remember the actual proper name of it, but it's no heroes, it's all troops. It's a smaller mode, so it's basically like objective driven. So the one I ended up playing over and over was the one. It's on the Takodana, which is the planet with Maz Kanata's bar from Force Awakens, and you're trying to pick up an artifact from there and bring it to a certain place, and the other team's trying to stop you, or vice versa. And that was fun. It's so there's no heroes in that mode. You just can pick elite soldiers. So I ended up being the First Order every time. I've never played as the Resistance or the Trade Federation. I did play as both Empire and Rebels in the Starfighter mode.
Okay.
But as far as I know, there's no way to pick one side or the other. They just keep throwing me on the same side. Yeah. Which is fine. I like Stormtroopers. It's cool. But so we've been trying to run. So you can be if you gain enough battle points, you can be either you can pick the flame trooper or the jetpack guy, which is cool.
Which one did you pick?
I tried the flame trooper and I was not particularly effective with him, so I went back to my heavy and assault guys. I'm terrible. There's four main classes. There's assault, which is kind of general soldier. Heavy, which has a bigger gun and has an ability to pull out a chain gun, which is pretty cool. Yeah. You've got officer, which is about quick pistol stuff, but got a lot of buffs for your teammates. And then specialist, which is the sniper, engineer type guy, and I am terrible at that class.
I've never been good at playing sniper and multiplayer shooters.
Yeah, I'm not good at it at all.
And then you watch some people who are good at it, and it's mind-blowing. Some of the snipers in COD are just are you freaking kidding me?
Some of the guys in this are really good, because you can see when someone's doing the sniper scope thing, it's like a lens flare in the distance. You can see to kind of warn you that. Yeah. And a lot of times I'll say, lens flare, there's a sniper. So it's before I can even finish thinking, I've registered, I see that, it's over.
Right.
Real fast, you get back into it real fast. You basically you get a thing where it lays out 4 slots, and it's 10-second countdown. I think a Galactic Assault, and it waits either in 10 seconds or when 4 people are ready to respawn, whichever comes first. Then you all pop back in at once. So it's not just constantly single filing back into the game, which actually is pretty good because then you're already in a group. Kind of you can already kind of move forward as a group, and sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. I've been in groups of 5 or 6 people that got wiped out by one dude coming in from the right, and I don't know what happened. It was all right, sure.
So the latency still looks.
I think the latency is still there. I mean, it is a beta, but it's a problem that I associate with EA's version of the game because it was a big problem in the first one.
Yeah.
So that's still there. The big improvement for me is the Starfighter mode, which has been completely rebuilt from the ground up, like they said before. But it's a legit space flight sim thing now. I mean, not a sim in the sense that you think of a simulation, but it's not kind of that half-assed pseudo arcade thing they had in the first game.
Yeah.
You can get in that cockpit. You can have a cockpit, first-person view, which is what I use. Make sure you swap the sticks, I think, because in the standard they do it the way a first-person shooter would be. So roll and speed are the left stick, and steer is the right stick, which is how you steer a guy in first-person shooter. But I want that the other way around with a ship, and I don't know why.
Flight sim controls.
Right, but when you think about it, it's the same thing, isn't it? You're just controlling your view with this stick, and you're controlling
and that's why
movement with this stick, and that's why they do it that way. But I had to swap it. I had to go Legacy Southpaw is the name of the mode you switch to, or at least
that's not a surprise to me. You've played a lot of flight
I play a
sims
lot
like
of
that.
space.
Yeah.
It's not X-wing versus TIE fighter, but it's definitely like steps towards that, and that's a good thing to me. And I've had some really nice dogfights and some last-minute escapes through the superstructure of the Star Destroyer, like the Fondor shipyard thing, and like diving through and blowing away part of the coupling link and circling back around because I know that their ship can't turn as fast as my TIE interceptor and back up. It's good. Like it's really. Matter of fact, my only issue with it is I think it's going to be a little too much for people who have never played that kind of game before, which on one hand I'm like okay with because I love it, but on the other hand,
sometimes that's good because it weeds out the people
sort
that
of,
probably shouldn't be playing.
But it also means that like that mode will be abandoned faster by the player base. I mean, early on, of course, there'll be more than enough people to do it. But I didn't have any trouble getting into games, but it took like twice as long to get into a Starfighter game as it did like a Galactic Assault.
A couple months in, though, it'll be you and all the people who are really good.
Right.
Which is okay, right?
Yeah. Not bad.
Want a little fodder in there, maybe.
And the ships are much more robust now. I would say, like they can take more hits. You don't die instantly all the time anymore. Even the interceptors are the weakest, in terms of shielding. But I stayed alive most, 2 or 3 deaths in the whole match, and I didn't get a ton of kills because I was still getting used to everything. And the HUD still needs a little work in the sense that like you shoot at a guy. The lock-on kind of happens, so the arrow that points off screen to him if he gets out of your view is like tinged in white instead of just plain red like everybody else. But that can be hard to follow because you're still looking at 14 arrows everywhere.
Right.
But it's definitely an improvement, and again, it looks amazing, and like it's the best X-wing fighting TIE fighters like gameplay mode of anything ever. It's great.
Yeah. Do you think maybe the part of the problem is that you're talking about the controls and how they've been kind of arcadey all along. Do you think that's just because all the way back in the N64 era, it kind of got off on that foot with the Battle of Hoth and Shadows of the Empire?
No, I think
it tends to be like you set that precedent, and then other developers end up just kind of building on it.
No, I don't think it's just that. I think it's those games, the Rogue Squadron games, grew out of a desire to have a console equivalent of the X-Wing games. I think
for sure.
Because back then, A, there was no way to put that many controls on a controller, and B, there was just that sort of perception that everybody, including the publishers, had that console gamers didn't want to play something as detailed and sim-like as that. They just wanted to fly around and shoot stuff. And so that's what Rogue Squadron is. Although, Rogue Squadron is really frickin' hard if you want to get the gold medals. If you really want to complete those games, Factor 5 does not mess around. They want you to play perfect. But
and they nailed it, too. Like, in those games, like, literally, like, it was the perfect difficulty.
Right.
It was like, you could get close enough to know that it was possible. Right. But you really had to perfect.
Yeah, you just needed 5% more accuracy, and you would have gotten that gold medal. But now you got to do it again. It took 15 minutes. Fight me. And if you
I had a lot more patience back then.
If you do it all, you get a Naboo Starfighter you'll never use.
Right.
So great. And but like those games were also good in the sense that there's a timelessness to them. Yeah. And like a matter of fact, I bought a converter box so I could get the rocket robot on wheels footage from my N64 for the bits and bytes capture, because it turns out no modern general Elgato style capture solution plays too well with composite.
No.
And S-video, like
they get funky
because you need to use S-video off of the N64 or it just blobs.
Yeah,
and so I got a converter box that can convert the S-video signal to HDMI, and that worked out pretty well. But as long as I had it hooked up, I decided to put some stuff in. I put the original Rogue Squadron, and that game's still good.
Yeah, it's still fun.
That game's still fun.
Yeah.
It's still fun to
play. But
play.
that's why I always say gameplay is what's most important.
Yeah.
Because that's what makes a game timeless. Is it well balanced? Does it handle well? Those are the things that kind of always stand the test of time versus a game's visuals. Story, too, can tend to hold up over time.
No, I mean, I would say this game is... it's more Rogue Squadron than X-Wing.
Okay.
The difference being that there's
see, from my perspective, I'm cool with that.
Right.
Like, I prefer to kind of be on that side a little bit.
There's much more Z-axis to this than Rogue Squadron ever had.
Yeah.
So there's up and down more.
Yeah.
Although there is kind of an auto level thing. So everyone's kind of but like there's a vertical space happening that Rogue Squadron never really had.
Yeah. Well, there were those free roam options that it wasn't like built kind of baked into the overall experience. It's like now you can fly anywhere.
Right, and so and of course the real advantage now and how they've redone it is like there's an objective to everything. So the version that's up, the map that's up for the beta is Empire's on defense, Rebels are on offense. It's at the Fondor shipyards where they manufacture and repair the Star Destroyers and the big cap ships. So the idea is you go in and you're supposed to take out I think shield stuff and some of the defense ships, and then you have to take out the idea is you want to blow up this massive Star Destroyer that's docked for repairs. The idea being that it would destroy the whole dock, and so you have to go down and you have to go into it and take out. You have to go into the superstructure of the docks and the ship and take out the shield generator orbs. And once that's down, you can then blow the couplings off of the Star Destroyer. And then once that happens, the underside is vulnerable, and you can shoot at its shield generator down there, the engine, and basically you have a limited amount of time it's vulnerable for the couplings re-engage. So the kind of the end game of the meat of that mode, once you've got everything done, is like constantly making runs on those couplings and then taking advantage of
the time
blowing away the button. And once you blow that thing up, the whole thing goes.
Gotcha.
So instead of, as opposed to the last game's Fighter Squadron mode, which was just like everybody shoot each other, there was nothing to that. This one is a much more directed experience, and as a matter of fact, all the modes feel like there feels like there's more to all the stuff they've shown you in this. Even the single player arcade stuff.
Yeah, so I don't ask you about.
Has
Did
an
you play
objective.
The split screen arcade?
I didn't
mode?
play split screen, but I did play the solo stuff, which is like the first one is like you don't pick, like it's not just a standard match like in the last game. It's like the first one I think is your Darth Maul. You can pick either Darth Maul or a super battle droid, and you have to kill a certain number of clone troopers.
Okay.
And you have a time limit for that, and that's all. That's what it is. And then once you finish that, 1 star, there's a 2-star difficulty and a 3-star difficulty. Only 1-star difficulty is available in the beta, but there'll be 3 levels of each one to try in the final. And then the other one is what was the other one? I think it was basically just kill 70 clone troopers as a droid.
Oh, okay.
And so that was pretty easy. Like it's like it's just like here's a heavy droid, here's a Gatling gun, mow down stormtroopers, you're good. But it's kind of there's an angle to it, and I think they say it in the trailer, like little trailer that plays introducing to the game, narrated by John Boyega, which is that's cool. He's everywhere today.
Yeah.
Between that and the Pacific Rim 2 trailer, woo! So he kind of is saying, it's like, hone your skills in arcade, but it does feel like it's kind of giving you a chance to try these things out and learn how things work without the pressure of a multiplayer situation on you. And the only downside I would say on the co-op thing is there's no online for it.
That's insane.
Like, it's only split screen, same
local
console.
split screen only. Wow, that's crazy. So Matt, now that you've had a chance to dive in, and I'm sure I'm going to play this pretty much all weekend with my spare time, so we'll probably talk about this again next week. Sorry, guys. But now that you've had a chance to kind of dive in, more excited? Less excited? What you expected?
About what I expected. I still get frustrated, like how many times I get killed out of nowhere.
Yeah.
In a couple of the modes.
I mean, any shooter where you have that many, because what's the biggest mode in this beta? 40 players?
20 on 20.
20 on 20? That's a lot.
It is. I'd like to play other maps where I don't feel like I'm at a disadvantage trying to see the enemy. Like, I'd like to play as the droids at some point. That would be interesting to see it from the other side. For whatever
reason. I'd like to just play.
Right.
So.
And the Starfighter stuff is actually better than I thought it would be, so that's good. And my main thing I'm really interested in is the campaign. Like, I hope the campaign's cool.
Yeah.
But it looks great.
It's the biggest, really.
Yeah, but it looks great. There's a lot of stuff. I think I am a little concerned about the loot box stuff because, unlike kind of the more cosmetic stuff you usually get out of loot boxes, there are real upgrades, like real damage upgrades, defense upgrades you get out of these things. And it looks like it gives you them, and you can buy them with the credits fairly regularly, like as long as you're doing the kind of the challenges they give you in the timed like daily challenges or whatever. But it does. Like, I can see really, if someone feels like dropping $100 real on loot boxes, they're going to be way more powerful than another person who's playing next to them.
That's when loot boxes go wrong,
and that's not a cool thing to me. And certainly I would never do that because that's just not a useful waste of my money. But every once in a while you get killed by a guy who has a bunch of really good cards lined up on their thing when they kill you. kill you and it shows you what they had,
Right.
and you're like,
That's not fair.
yeah, did you I mean, I don't. You can't buy it for real money in the beta, obviously.
Yeah.
But I look at that and I can see like, oh, there's going to come a time where you're just getting murdered by guys with just 5-star golds across the board, and you're like, how did you get? Did you just like throw money until you got those? Because I can't do that.
I mean, that was
sucks.
happening to me when we were playing Destiny 2 during the Patreon drive. Some guys just have rocket launchers.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I've never had a rocket launcher in multiplayer in that game. And he would, like, we were playing, like, Control, where you have to control points or whatever. Our whole team would be standing in a flag trying to capture the point. Some dude would just poke his head around the corner and fire one rocket and just blow all of us up. And I'm like, how is that fair? I'm using this little pea shooter, like...
That's what rockets are for.
Yeah, we're going to get into some loot box stuff a little later on with another game we're going to talk about, too. But, man, it really seems like, in general... that whole concept is starting to spiral out of control a little bit.
Battlefront's implementation of it feels worse than like Shadow of Wars to me. Because for one thing, Shadow of War is single player, and for another, the developers swear up and down on the Shadow of War that you can finish the game without needing to do that.
Most of the reviews that have come out for the game so far have kind of agreed.
With the exception of Polygon, who I don't always, I think enjoys the controversy.
Yeah.
It feels like the price of not doing loot boxes for real money in that game seems to be you play the game more, which shouldn't be a bad thing, unless you're just like really boring grinding. But I like the concept of what that end game is, so we'll see. I mean, who knows? The only downside is I'm going to have to get through the whole game before I can talk about it on the show.
No, yeah.
It's going to be a long haul. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
It looks like a big game.
Yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt.
But this, I feel like, is really giving you an advantage over other human players, which is...
that's a no-no.
That's a negative there.
For sure.
Cosmetic stuff, I don't care. Yeah, sure, you look cool. You've got devil horns or whatever. Like that's there's a lot.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
A lot of that going on in Destiny. Like you can get some cool looking loot, like armor out of the bright engrams, but they come out of the bright engrams with 10 armor. You have to infuse something to make them usable, and I think that's a fair thing.
I agree. Yeah.
It doesn't give you any advantage except that now your Titan has bunny ears.
Yeah,
and that's
different.
cool.
Yeah, which is fine. Yeah, so.
I'm interested to see if people react badly to this, or if this is just something people gloss over because it looks so awesome they want to play it. I certainly intend to gloss over it because it looks so awesome I want to play it. So I can't blame anyone for that. But this is the kind of loot box implementation I think we should be questioning very, very hard.
Yeah. So I'll be online playing all weekend. So most of you guys are friends with me on PSN. Let's jump in, let's play, let's blast some droid butt. So see you online this weekend.